Welcome to Magic Arcanum. I'm Ryan Gomez. Behind the scenes is Nicole Burdick, and we're so glad you're here because it's story time. Dominaria United takes us back to where it all started, putting heroes from the game's earliest days up against longtime villains. And to help set the stage a bit, I thought it would be good to look at just some of the plane's most noteworthy characters, events, and locations. Before we do that, though, make sure you're suited up for the blind eternities by visiting our sponsor, Into the AM. They have got an amazing line of shirts that are super comfy, and if you've got a favorite magic card, or plane, or commander deck, they've probably got a design to match. I mean, we all know you match your sleeves to your cards. Why not go all out and match your shirt, too? Into the AM graphic tees are so soft, you'll feel like you're drifting through a sea of clouds. And with their bundle pricing, you won't need a noble's purse to afford updating your prismatic wardrobe. Anyway, visit Into the AM using the link down below, or use promo code MAGICARCANUM at checkout to save 10% site-wide while supporting the show. That's a coalition victory, baby. Now, let's unravel a history of Dominaria. One of the earliest events we know about is the birth of the plane's elder dragons, including Nicol and Ugin. The siblings would end up battling each other in the Elder Dragon War, but it was a later generation of dragons, known as the Primevals, that actually managed to rule things for a while. Nothing lasts forever on Dominaria, though, and eventually the Primevals were defeated by a group of wizards, which allowed for the subsequent rise of the Thran Empire. The Thran were master artificers, and to this day, the landscape of Dominaria is littered with relics of their civilization, many of which are still functional, if not fully understood. It was in this era that a scientist named Yawgmoth made contact with an artificial plane filled with mechanical life, which he would dub Phyrexia, and thus the inhabitants would become the first Phyrexians. Fortunately for Dominaria, the portal that connected it to Phyrexia was closed, stranding Yawgmoth and delaying the, let's say, negative influences they would have otherwise experienced. Anyway, the Thran Empire eventually crumbles, but life continues to develop on the plane of Dominaria, with the nation of Zalfir making great strides in their mastery of magic. Then we come to the birth of Urza and Mishra, brothers who would end up bringing Dominaria to its knees. This will all be covered in greater detail later, but in short, the brothers each found half of an ancient Thran power stone, and of course, wanted each other's half as well. This give me that, no, you give me that conflict escalated over the course of some 30 or 40 years and became known as the Brothers' War, or the Antiquities War. Each side rallied armies, created massive war machines, and committed some atrocities, but it was Urza who pulled the big pin on the big grenade when he realized his brother Mishra had become a Phyrexian. The Golgothian Silex was a terrible weapon, far worse than any magical bowl had a right to be, but it obliterated Mishra and his armies, along with thousands of innocents, and ushered in a plane-wide ice age. And so, after suffering through decades of war, the Dominarians now had a climate crisis to deal with. At this point, they were probably yearning for the dragons to come back, but alas, fate had something else in mind. Factions like the Keldor and Balduvians fought over the dwindling resources of the frozen landscape, but even they had to put their differences aside to face a bigger threat, the necromancer Limdul and his zombie army. Limdul was eventually defeated, and his essence was trapped in a magical ring, which wound up on the grounds of the Vess family estate. But that is a story for another time. The Ice Age itself came to an end when a group of wizards and druids, including the planeswalker Freyalise, enacted the World Spell, which set Dominaria on a path of growth and recovery. This is the start of what we can consider the modern age, and it is when most of Magic's earliest sets take place. Notable events from this period include the Mirage Wars, in which Kaervek tried to take over a place called Gemura, only to be stopped by a time mage named Teferi. This would also become the Age of the Apocalypse, as the Phyrexians assaulted the plane, led by a vengeful Yawgmoth, now living his best life as a toxic cloud. You see, the Phyrexians had spent years building up their army on a plane called Wrath, which they then overlaid onto Dominaria, in an event creatively called the Wrathy Overlay. This deposited swarms of Phyrexians all over the place, but it also greatly altered the plane's own natural landscape. That Teferi fellow I mentioned earlier, well, he didn't want his homeland, Zalfir, to suffer during any of this, so he phased it out of existence, intending to bring it back when things were safe, but he inadvertently created a new problem: time rifts. Nasty little things. Others popped up across the plane, threatening to do more damage than the Phyrexians, and it would eventually take the combined efforts of many planeswalkers to seal the rifts and mend Dominaria once again. As for the Phyrexians, well, they were met by a massive coalition of Dominarian forces. The tip of the spear was the skyship Weatherlight and her crew, which included Karn, a silver golem created by Urza. Karn would later travel away from Dominaria, but leave behind several probes to keep an eye on things, one of which was the Mirari, a supremely powerful magical artifact that had a serious defect. The mana radiating from the Mirari caused all sorts of problems for Dominaria until it was removed and taken to Argentum, where it became the core of Memnarch, the plane's guardian. Back over on Dominaria, though, things continued to be unsettled as slivers escaped the Riptide laboratory and spread across the plane, and an avatar named Corona went on a rampage that destroyed several major cities before being stopped. The plane had survived Elder Dragons, the rise and fall of the Thran, an Ice Age, a Phyrexian invasion, and continued to endure war and conflict while under the stress of the growing time rifts. Realizing this could be it, planeswalkers gave it their all. Many sacrificed their lives to seal up these rifts. Nicol Bolas managed to sacrifice somebody else, which is totally on brand for him, and Radha managed to get by with only losing her latent spark rather than her entire life, but the cost was high all the same. Even those who survived ended up paying a steep price. The Mending, as it would be called, did save Dominaria and by extent stabilize the multiverse, but it also greatly reduced the power of planeswalkers forevermore. And this brings us to the post-Mending era, in which planeswalkers like Liliana Vess grapple with what it means to have held and then lost such great power, while Nicol Bolas attempted to reclaim it by violent force through enacting the Elder Spell over on Ravnica. As for Dominaria itself, the plane is still littered with relics of the past. Craters and ravines form scars on the landscape, reminding us of the calamities that came earlier. Thran artifacts still hold immense power and mystery, and civilizations are rebuilding atop the ruins of Benalia and Tolaria. Even the noble Weatherlight has taken to the skies once again, now with a new and largely untested crew, but eager to prove themselves worthy of their ancestry. And they'll get their chance, because beneath the surface of this gleaming new age, something sinister still lurks. The Phyrexians have returned to Dominaria, perhaps more powerful than ever, now that they can corrupt and complete planeswalkers, as we've already seen them achieve with Tamiyo. Will their sleeper agents fracture Karn's new coalition before it can move against them? Or will the Silver Golem unlock the secrets of the recovered Sylex and use it to decimate the Phyrexians, and possibly Dominaria, once again? We find out when Dominaria United releases on September 9th. So until then, I gotta ask, what's your favorite moment in the history of the plane? Let me know down there in the comments. Then, planes walk on over to Into the AM using my link. Get yourself something fun to wear to the pre-release. It's always a great time. Then make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the great stories you'll only find here on Magic Arcanum. We'll see ya.